And hello and welcome everyone. Today we talk about the documentation. It is a way developers communicate with users. It's not the only way, but one of most important. Uh, we will see the picture from the both side, from the point of view of the user, and we also, in the second part of the stream, will see how to write a good documentation. All the examples will be related to info and tech info for various reasons. First of all, uh, it's already integrated in GNU ecosystem. It works in Emacs, in standalone info reader, and provided for many free and open source projects by GNU and not only GNU. So it's important to know how to use it. Also, Texinfo and Info was designed for documenting software projects. So it's a good tool which suits our needs, and actually my own need for documenting my own projects. Also, it's accessible. You can read it in your terminal, in Emacs or many other applications. You can download it through the web or see it in your web browser, or maybe in your PDF viewer, or even print it on the paper. Also, it's offline friendly. You always have access to your documentation, even if you're not connected to the internet, which is actually very important in some cases when you have unstable connection or connection which restricted by firewalls and other stuff. So it's one of the properties RDE tries to stick to be offline friendly. Hi Rostislav, nice to see you. It may look that info is quite ancient type of documentation. It maybe looks even older than manual pages, or even the same or near the same age, but actually it's quite handy if you just spend a few dozens of minutes exploring it and learning it. And after you get familiar with it, you will find that despite the look, it's a quite good tool which actually do its job quite well. Also, it exists for years and decades, so it's kinda time-proven technology. And let's start from the terminology. For info, you have actually info is just a basic plain text file with the documentation itself and some escape sequences, which allows to special programs easier navigate through this text file. You can read it with any text reading application, and to demonstrate it, I will open documentation, for example, for let's say bash, and I will open it as a file. It's how it looks in plain text, something like that. You already can search it, can read, scroll, and so on as a basic text file, but sometimes it's not very handy because you want to navigate a little more structured, and it's hard to read so long text file in one pass. So the special tool called InfoReader, it has a standalone version, and it also has an implementation inside Emacs. Which you can use to easier navigate through these text files. And let's go back to Emacs InfoReader, and how the same file looks inside this application. You can also launch it from the terminal, and it's standalone InfoReader, which behaves similar to how Emacs InfoReader works, but it's a little more restricted, of course. But anyway, it still works and do its job. I will be using InfoReader from inside Emacs because why not? I use Emacs for many developer-related tasks, and one of them reading documentation. So it's nice to have it integrated inside my development environment. Okay, you saw that we have a file. Actually, we have a lot of info files which can be brought from different sources, and all of them makes a what called info directory. Actually, it can be not only one directory which contains all those files, but a few different directories, and all of those directories are listed in info path. You can see that I have a lot of directories listed here, and in some cases it will be even more. And InfoReader inside the Emacs have a special variable containing all those paths. So info command will be able to explore those directories and find all the documentation files. And all of those files creates what is called a top directory. You can see all the documentation which currently exists in my system listed here. How it appears here we will discuss a little later when we will be writing a tech info file. But for now we just think that it somehow magically appears here. Okay, from this top directory we can navigate to a particular info file. It's the file related to one software in most cases, and inside this info file we will have what is called nodes. Nodes, it's something that you can see in one go, like you can scroll it. It's one node, and it's also one node. Sometimes it fits to the screen, sometimes it takes a few screens, but inside node you can navigate only using scrolling or some special commands, and you also can jump between those different nodes. And each node can contain some components like menus. These menus used to navigate between different sub nodes, subsections, or somewhere around the current node. For example, this top node contains the menu which you can use to navigate to all other nested nodes. And inside, let's go to bash shell features. Inside this node you have another menu which allows you to navigate deeper to nested nodes. And in the reality it's the one file which is logically splitted into few nodes, which is presented by info program this way. Okay, we talked a little about the structure of info file. Let's talk about one more thing that is used for navigation. It's an index. Index contains a lot of keywords that you can use to explore the info file. Actually, I forgot to show you that you can navigate nodes using a special command. I will explain it a little later, but actually it contains all the nodes that are present in this info file. So you can have this list, and you can filter it by something like this, by typing some keyword. Oh, good question. Let me enable keycast mode. Actually keycast works only for buffers which has. Okay, I need to configure keycast so it will show the keys I press somewhere, because for info buffers I don't have a usual mod line, so it doesn't show anything. I will configure it for the next stream, I think. But we will see all the available key bindings a little later. I just showing you a structure of info files for now, and later we will go to more interesting part, is actually navigating through these info files. Okay, I hope we covered most important terms for info files. It's actually not something very official. It's just something that I came up and I think important to understand what is going on. Maybe there are some other terminology that is nice to know, but this one is enough. Okay, and let's start from info apropos. It's a command available in Emacs. It allows you to type some command, for example, type some keyword or arbitrary string, and it will search through all the info files, and after then that will present you with the results, and will show in which info file and which section or node it will find it found the result. So here I tried to find a keyword string and got a lot of results. And I know that I'm interested in string functions related to Emacs Lisp. So I have a lot of menu items. It's generated a menu, so I can navigate it the same way I navigate menus in basic info buffer. I do it using M, and I will show it later one more time, but for now just remember that M is for menu navigation. And I type elisp, and here I can see all the functions containing string and their names. Actually, I'm interested in string predicate, which compares string equality. And here I go to the node which called text comparison, and which contains the string equal function, description of this function, some examples, and some detailed explanation. Very good so far. We found what we was looking for. Now let's explore a little more information about info itself. Actually, first of all, info contains an info file for itself, so I can read about using info in info format. And for that, there's a hotkey, which I don't actually remember. But when you in any info buffer, you can type h. Let me add it to here. H in any info buffer. It opens how to use info node from info manual, and it explains the basics, how to navigate through the page. You can use Ctrl V, Alt V, usual key bindings for scrolling. You can use NP for switching back and forth between nodes. And it's important you can switch only on the same level. And here I wrote down some hotkeys which I mostly learned from this manual. And also you can navigate nodes back and forth using square brackets, but it also will go back on one level top if it's already the latest node in this section. And it will go to the next section when this one will be finished. It's a difference with P and N hotkeys. Also, you probably can type Ctrl HM, which opens a whole help buffer for the current measure mode, which is info mode here. And here you will see that it says H invokes the info tutorial, and it shows all other key bindings with small explanation for them. So you have two options. You can read the getting started, which has a pretty detailed explanation and will allow you to practice all the navigation through the info file and all other actions you can do with info files, or you can just open a help for the current measure mode and see what each hotkey do. Yeah, of course, evil mode should be disabled to make this navigation work. But actually, I think in most cases, such mods like dret or info should work fine with evil, because it tries not to break something which already works in kinda model way. But also there is a special library which allows to make it more Vim friendly, the key bindings of Azmod more Vim friendly. But I don't use evil and I don't use Vim for 2 years or maybe a little more, so I don't have any problems with key bindings. Okay, we started to talk about navigating info files, and we already searched through all the info files. Also, I showed you that you can actually go to node using G. For example, here I will type G and we'll see all the nodes available in this info file. Actually, not so much nodes. You can read it in just a few minutes. And it uses just basic mini buffer completion. Here I configured Vertica to show the completion candidates in the other buffer, but usually it will pop up here, or if you don't use any completion framework, it will not show the candidate list until you press tab or something. Sometimes I find it very useful that I can go to this some particular node. For example, I want to go to getting started and see what is here, and I see that help small screen is the next section. I will type a square bracket and we'll go to the first section of getting started, and we'll type n, and we'll go to next, to next, to next, and we'll see all the information about how to use info. And here most important keys I already written down here. NP for navigating nodes back and forth, also square brackets with a little difference that I already mentioned. G, navigating nodes using completion system. Also, you can look up index for this file. For example, it has quite a big index comparing to the number of nodes. And probably this is index for key bindings. And for example, G will show the information about G key binding, which allows to go to particular node. Good. Also, almost every info file have a table of content, and you can get it using capital T. And now you can see the structure of the file. Actually, let me open some other maybe bigger file. For example, I want to open guix manual and open the table of content of guix manual. And you can see the structure of this manual quite clear, because the nestness is clear due to this tabs symbols or characters. Probably characters is better word. Good. We can navigate already to nodes directly. We can see the structure of the file using table of content, and also we can navigate by index using some keywords, which was somehow prepared upfront by the developers of this documentation. Good. And how to navigate through table of content? You actually can click on each link, or you can use F, which is for follow reference, and every item in this table of content is a reference. So to get just a plain list of candidates, I press F, and after that I look, for example, for web services. Cool. And I went to web services node, and also I could do, for example, nginx or Apache. For some reason it doesn't have nginx not in the table of content, but it's okay. It's probably have nginx in the index, and I see there's nginx in index, and I want to see nginx configuration record, and it will go to exact place where this nginx configuration defined. Very cool. The other possibility to navigate through the info file is using iSearch. It works the same way as just searching through the whole file. For example, I can look for file like object and type Ctrl S more times, and you can see here at the top there is a small menu which indicates next node, previous node, and node which is parent to the current one. And as you can see, I search failing end of node, But when I type Ctrl S one more time, I will go to the different node. So you can see that nodes at the top changes when I type Ctrl S. And now I already in somewhere related to guix home part of manual. And I search goes through all the nodes, not only through the content of currently visible node, which is quite handy sometimes. Okay. We explored how to go back and forth through the nodes, how to go to exact node, how to search through the whole file, how to use index and table of content, and how to follow references. Actually, I didn't show another example, which is quite nice when you use menus. For example, here I can type M and list all the menus, and after that pick the one I want, or for example, reduce the number of candidates and pick invoking guix REPL. But also I can type just a number. For example, I will press 4 and I should go to build systems node. I press 4 and you can see that currently I'm in build systems node. Here you see breadcrumbs, which is good. And to get back to the previous node, I use L hotkey, which is which goes to the previous place I was before I did some navigation. Also, I can use R hotkey to go to the next in the history. If I type L few more times, I will be jumping through all the places that was visited during my navigation. And to be sure in the meaning of hotkey, we can type Ctrl H K and type the letter or a combination of keys. For example, I will type L, and we will see that it's bound to info history back command. Also, you can explore other commands using Alt X and see all the available commands to you, and key bindings for few of them. Do you mean key bindings in evil or key bindings in plain emacs? Okay, we talked about navigating history. Also, we already talked about scrolling up and down. I will add that it's also possible to use Ctrl V, Alt V as an usual Emacs buffer. And let's talk about navigating through the nodes. I will place it next to the navigating nodes. And this type of character goes to the parent node. For example, here I went to, let's go back to engine X configuration, and we know that right now we in a web services node, and if I press I don't know how this I don't remember how this character called, but I will press it, and I will get to the services node, and I will press it one more time, and now I am in system configuration node, and one more time I am in the top node of current info file, and one more time I go to the top directory. Let me go back, and here I'm in the web services, and I want to go to the top directory which contains all the info files. I will just press D, and we'll go to the top directory which contains all the info files. I will press L to go back to the web services. So this was I missed the one key binding, which is angle bracket, this one, which goes to the top node of the current file. If you want to go to the top node of the guix manual, you just press left angle bracket, and you see the menu which contains almost all the sections of the info file. But actually, in most cases, I don't need it. I just press G and see all the nodes here, so I can easily navigate them. Yeah, thank you. It's a carrot. Roof is also okay. Yeah. Thank you. Rostislav says that he used Spacemacs with evil key bindings. I used it for a few years after I switched from Vim to Emacs, and also I used Doom Emacs. But later I switched to vanilla key bindings, and I found them quite good, because you don't need to spend time and effort understanding in which mode you're currently in. You just type what you want to type, and you navigate without switching modes. So in every moment you're sure that you're in editing mode, and the Emacs key bindings is not that bad. I'm quite satisfied with it, and also in very Vim Golf tasks I see that Emacs can be the same if as efficient as Vim, and in some cases even more efficient. It's a little awkward at the beginning, especially if you're coming from some editors like Notepad or VS Code with usual Windows style key bindings, but actually bindings in Emacs make sense, and I will explain it in the RD manual later, and also I mentioned it in some previous streams. So later when I will publish RD manual, you will see the reasons why I don't use evil, and you will see the logic behind Emacs key bindings and why they actually good enough. Okay. The last key binding that we can use is Alt-N key binding. Not actually the last one that we can use, but the one I wanted to share with you is Alt-N, which copies the current buffer, and now you can navigate two info buffers separately. So they looked the same after I typed Alt-N, but in reality it's two buffers which are different, and one of them is just a clone of the first one. It allows you to save a place where you find something interesting and continue navigating your original info file, for example. And after you finished with one buffer, you have another saved, and you can just quit the first one and go back to your editing having the copy of the necessary info buffer on the right pane, for example. And also you can use a prefix argument for all the navigation keys. For example, go to node, follow reference or follow link, index, and so on. For example, I want to open one more time Nginx configuration from index, but I want it to be opened in a new info buffer. So I will type Ctrl U, universal argument or prefix key, and I will type I for index topic, and will type Nginx configuration. And now it should be opened in the different buffer. Okay, let's to make sure that the buffer is different, let's close all other buffers, and let's repeat the section. Oh, for some reason using prefix argument with index doesn't work, but let's use the prefix argument with G. Getting started. Yeah, okay. Prefix argument doesn't work with with index, but it works with go to node function. And I have two info buffers now, and it's quite pity that it doesn't work with index function. Info index. Let me see this description. It doesn't show anything about prefix argument, but for the go to node, yeah. Okay, it works only for go to node probably. Let's mention it. Good. We learned almost all the basics, which is necessary for navigating through the info files. There are much more commands available in Emacs, but I hope you will be able to explore them yourselves and find something that works for you. I will just show a few more examples. First one was already covered. The second one is using go to node function, but we will be using it inside guix manual, but we will go to Lisp manual from here. We will type G, go to node, and we'll type Lisp. And now we can navigate Lisp manual instead of guix manual. And here we can text comparing text node. Now we went from the guix manual straight to Lisp manual, which is cool. Why it cool? Because, for example, here we can find some guile function. Let's look for string append, for example, and I want to see which arguments can be passed to string append function. I type G, type guile, and now type string append. Actually, I'm interested if I can do the same for index. Guile string. No, it doesn't work for index, but it works for go to node function. And here I can see that there is a string append function inside reversing and appending strings node of guile manual. Cool. It's kinda advanced use case, but still quite cool. We already explored how we can use talk and follow reference function. And also I can show you one more advanced trick with table of content. We have a table of content for guix manual, and there is a consult outline function provided by consult package. And here you can see the headings of different levels. And actually I don't know why it doesn't show a different levels of headings, but okay. Okay, by default it just shows the first level of headings, so you can jump through the most top level nodes, and after that navigate from here to the exact place you need. For some reason it doesn't want to treat all other nodes, so it's kinda restricted in this buffer, but still useful. And actually, Control U maybe also work for navigating through menus. Let's go back to the, for example, this file where we have a menu, and I use prefix argument and open user accounts. Yeah, it works also. Not only for go to node, but also for menus. Very good. And that's all about navigating, searching, and reading info files. Now let's go to the second part of our stream, is actually writing the documentation and how to get info files from it, and also how to generate HTML and PDF files, which can be later, for example, printed or shared via the internet. It's 40 minutes and we just explored how to use info. Actually, it's maybe even easier to read the tutorial of info manual than watching the whole stream talking about this feature. Hi Demis, nice to see you. Okay, Texinfo is a format which built on top of Tex, and it provides a simplified markup language which can be used for generating info files and all other stuff that you can basically generate from Tex files usually. Let's start from the same thing. Let's explore the manual for Texinfo. And here we can see the usual menu. And what we actually interested in is writing Texinfo file. We will type M and we'll type writing and we'll go to writing Texinfo file. Now we go to the next node, which explains how to write a Texinfo file, and we'll see we will go to the short example Texinfo file directly. And now you can see that there are some things starting with @sign, and it's an example of basic Texinfo file. Actually, if you will go through this manual one by one, we will see that everything starting from @sign is a Texinfo command, which allows to do some operations on the text, for example, making it stand different, or making it a link, or making it a Lisp code example, and so on. And after you read this few notes, you get the basic understanding of Texinfo file. And after reading right at Texinfo file section, you will be able to write something simple. And here I started to write RD manual in Texinfo format. And let's explore some things that may be interesting for us. The first one is input Texinfo. It's a command for tex, which will be processed during evaluation of Texinfo file to get the result. And after this file is included, we can start using commands which uses this @sign. So basically, it allows us to use the special syntax for manipulating the text inside this file. Some commands doesn't manipulate text, but sets some variables. For example, this one sets the target file which will be used by default for by making for utility. This one sets the title, document encoding, and document language. It's pretty self-explanatory. And what we will do before we begin working with this file, we will see the information about major mod, and this help buffer will see we will show all the key bindings provided by Texinfo mod, and also we'll get some explanation of those commands. It's just 3 pages, so it's quite easy to go through it. I already did it and write down most important commands, which I will demonstrate a little later. Also, we can click on each command here and get more detailed information about each function. For example, this function, which inserts and can accept prefix argument and different values of this prefix argument, and so on. Nothing special, but just a plain emacs documentation for all the functions, which is available for Texinfo mod. Very good. Also, we have include command, which allows us to specify another file. For example, here I have a version file, which contains just 3 statements which set some variables which can be used later. Most of the stuff I took from the Texinfo manual itself and from guix manual. I just took the source code of guix manual, which is available in guix repository, and took the parts I was interested in. Here I just set another variable that I can later use inside the code. And here we just add some copyright notice. And the interesting part that I mentioned earlier but didn't show how it implemented is dir entry. It allows to pop up top level info directory with some entries that you will see when you press D hotkey in info buffer, or when you open info program for the first time. And here you can see a lot of entries. And for example, let's take a look, the one related to the guix. Here you can see a lot of entries related to the guix, and in the manual, in the source code, it's present by dir entry like this. So info program reads those the result of the compilation of those commands for directory entries and adds them to this page. So you can navigate not only to exact manual, but to the some topics which are listed in this directory entries. Good. Later we set some stuff related to title page. We create a top node and generate a menu. Actually, we can create this menu ourselves, but luckily we don't need to do it. Texinfo can generate those menus for us. For that we have Ctrl+C, Ctrl+U, and a few commands binned here. First one creates a menu for current entry. Oh, nice! It shows the documentation for the function inside the tooltip. Very cool. It allows to generate menu for current node, allows to generate a master menu which is for top node, and it allows to update all the menus for all the nodes. So every time we change the structure of our file, we can just run one command and it will regenerate all the necessary menus. And as you can see here, I had a file generated from org file, and I have something commented that I don't need anymore. And let me regenerate the menus, the master menu. I will call Texinfo master menu command. I can do it with hotkey or just directly call it. And now you can see that detail menu and menu was updated by this command. This was before, and it became like this one. You can see the div here. This text was present before, and now it became this. Cool. We don't need to care about menus anymore because they can be easily generated. Now let's go and explore something else. It's often interesting what symbols are available for you to use and what exact symbol do. For example, here I have a multi-table, and it's somehow related to the table, but I'm not sure how. And I will type Ctrl+HS, and it will call describe symbol function, and by default it will use multi-table, and I will press enter, and we'll go to the info node related to this multi-table command. And it contains the explanation, and also it contains even some subnodes which explains this multi-table in more details. Very cool. Actually, I can type Ctrl+HS and just go through all the available commands. For example, menu, comment, I know that there is some command shorter than comment that I can use for comment. And here in the documentation on the first line, I see it's just add and see. So next time I will try to comment something. I won't need to type a comment. I will just use add and see. Actually, I won't be doing even this because I just can select the region and type my usual hotkey for commenting, and it will add this add C sign automatically. Okay, another possibility to explore available stuff in Texinfo mod is describe symbol. Now I see all the comments available to me and can read the related sections in the manual. Very cool. What we have? We have a tutorial about writing a Texinfo file, which is a part of Texinfo manual. We have information about key bindings in the help buffer for the major mod. We can see some particular hotkeys using Ctrl HK or Ctrl C, Ctrl H to see the all key bindings starting with Ctrl C. And we also can find a related section in manual for each command for our Texinfo file. Cool. I think it's enough to get all the information necessary for writing Texinfo files. And now let's explore some commands for editing Texinfo files. First one I wrote down is Ctrl C, Ctrl O. It allows to pick a block type, and it will just create a block where you can type some examples, which will be later available in the final manual. And there's quite a lot of block types. Tables, examples for some blocks like verbatim for arbitrary language or some special Lisp environments, tables, equations, probably, or maybe not, itemize for lists, and so on. Actually, you will find a lot of similar words if you ever used Tech or LaTeX. Probably it is because Texinfo kinda built on top of Tech, and many things available in Tech somehow presented in Texinfo too. And if I recall correctly, you can even use a directly Tech code inside Texinfo files, but probably you need to use Tech block name for that, and here you can write actual Tech functions like this one. Not sure, but probably it's done somehow similar to this. Actually, let's compile and see what we will get. I want to compile a doc. Let's compile a PDF. I don't remember where I placed the example. Oh, here. You can see the Tech printed here. Yep, it works. Actually, probably I can place some equation here. Tech equation example. I don't remember Tech syntax because I didn't use it for quite a while. That is why I will just Google something. like this one. We'll place it here. PDF. And you can see that I got the Tech equation inside the resulting PDF. But let's try to build HTML version of our document. And I will go, oops, not this one, this one. And here you won't see this equation because it will be available only for the formats produced using Tech processor, PDFs, DVI, and some other, but it won't appear in HTML, XML, or some other formats which produced by Make.info. And also it probably won't appear in info files. And to get the understanding of how it looks in info files, we will use some comment for previewing the results. But for now, let's go to the document and let's remember what I wanted to say here. Actually, I already talked about almost everything, but I will show how to see the documentation for Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C prefix. Actually, you can do the same for Ctrl+C, using Ctrl+C, Ctrl+H for Ctrl+C prefix, and see all the comments available here. And in the section measure mode bindings, you will see the bindings related to the Tech. It's a more narrow list than than produced by Ctrl+HM, and it's very usual for emacs, and probably you already know it. And the actually cool thing that you will like to use during writing the documentation is previewing the actual node you're editing. And here I edit introduction node, and if I type Ctrl+C, Ctrl+M, Ctrl+B, it will compile the info file and will open introduction node, so I can see how it looks. And we also see that there is no Tech stuff here because it's only produced for PDF output. And let's edit another node, channel introduction node, and type Ctrl+C, Ctrl+M, Ctrl+B, and we will see how channel introduction node will look. And we can go to the top node. And we'll see that it has a menu, a detailed menu, and we can navigate. The content of the nodes is not yet written, but we can see that the structure of the document already exists, and we can navigate through it. Okay, we talked about editing. Few more hotkeys that I didn't mention, but which can be useful is hotkey for writing quotes. Actually, the way quotes handled in Texinfo is using those backticks and single quotes. Nothing special, just to know information to know, and you actually can use basic double quotes to produce those quotes. I actually typed only a real double quote, and it inserted those two characters. Good. Anything else that I need to say about it? Alt enter will insert new item if you in some list, for example, itemize list or enumerate list. Actually, let's check if there is enumerate. Yeah, enumerate. People familiar with Tech will remember that there is enumerate for enumerated list and itemize for just a bullet list. insert block we already discussed, and yep, I think it's most important comments. There's some key bindings for some particular environments like code, definition, and so on. And also you can close those environments using control C slash key binding for Texinfo insert end. That's it. I think that everything else you will explore yourself. And now a few words about navigation. We can navigate environments using Ctrl C, and Ctrl N, Ctrl P, or Ctrl F. For example, now I jumped to the beginning of the table, to the example, to the multi-table, to tech environment, and so on, to detailed menu. It's the way to navigate to the previous entry, Ctrl C, to the previous environment entry, Ctrl C, Ctrl C, Ctrl P. And the same way but the opposite direction, Ctrl C, Ctrl C, Ctrl N. We'll go to the next environment environment in the Texinfo file. Good. Now I want to navigate through the document using the structure of the document, and I can type Ctrl C, Ctrl S, and now you will see a curve buffer on the right, and here in the curve buffer you see entries which demonstrates the structure of the document. Chapter is a top level, and section is one level of nestedness, and subsection is nested to the section, and so on. And you can navigate using Ctrl O to those places, and you can type enter or Ctrl M to go to the actual buffer and to do some editing here. But in most cases I prefer using Ctrl O to see if it is the place I'm interested in. Cool. There is another way that I can use to navigate this file using some external packages, and the package called consult provides two commands that I can use. First one is consult outline, which provides me with those with the same items I had in a core buffer, but in a slightly different format. I don't have the structure with tabs. I just see it as a plain list, but I can, for example, reduce the number of candidates. For example, if I'm interested only in sections and subsections, I will type section and will be able to navigate through them. And the same way I can use iMenu or consult iMenu in this example, which shows only chapters and nodes. You can see that it jumps through the chapters, and after that it jumps through the node entries on the left. So iMenu for navigating to nodes, and outline for navigating chapters, sections, subsections, and so on. Actually, the difference between node and chapter and section is that the node is something that is presented as a separate page, and this page can contain a few sections, for example. But also I can place a section on a separate node, each section. And for example, here, if I will remove those nodes like this, those both sections will be present on the same level as the rest of the content of the chapter. Let me demonstrate it. For now, I will open a documentation section, and it will be placed on a separate documentation node. But if I remove a node here And let's remove this node here, and we'll do the same. It will fail because I have a menu reference to it, so I will need to regenerate the menu. For this I will use Ctrl+C, Ctrl+U, and Texinfo master menu, and now I will type Ctrl+C, Ctrl+M, Ctrl+B, and it again complains about something. Okay, maybe I regenerated not all the menus. I updated all the menus of the file, and now it should work. Yep, now it compiled, and now it shows the contributing node, which contains documentation section. I think that's important to know. The difference between nodes and sections. Sections and chapters and subsections shows the structure of the document, and nodes shows the physical structure of the document, how it presented to the person. The same way it will be, it will work for the HTML version of manual. The node will be on a separate page if we have a multi page representation, and here I use single page representation for my manual, so those nodes will be separated by this horizontal line, and will produce some navigation buttons after each node. Okay, we saw how we can navigate the file, jumping between environments, jumping between different semantic units like chapters, subsections, sections, nodes, using a core buffer or console outline or imenu functions. And now the last thing that you can actually learn from the manual too, but I will demonstrate what I found recently when I was creating a template for the RD manual. It's how you can use makefiles and makeinfo utility to generate info, HTML and PDFs files from Texinfo. And let's open makefile. And here we will be interested in only this stuff. I narrowed the buffer with Ctrl+X and N, which is narrowed to region function. And we're interested in those targets. And here the simple example of makeinfo usage. I just type makeinfo, type the name of output file, and provide an argument, a Texinfo file, which I use for generating our info file. Here I have makeinfo utility, and I can look the arguments it accepts. It accepts some options and Texinfo file. Good. I think we can even do a trick. Makeinfo. We can open a documentation related to makeinfo in our info buffer. And to repeat this one more time, I'm currently in the top directory for info files. I type M for menu, type Texinfo to go to Texinfo menu item, and here I type I for index, and here I type makeinfo to get to the node which contains the reference to makeinfo. And here I can see the examples and explanation of different options for makeinfo utility. But as you can see here, I also can do it in the shell, just typing makeinfo ---- help. And probably another thing that will be interesting for you is envrc. Here in envrc, I included techleaf base package, which is smaller version of techleaf, techlife probably, which contains all the necessary stuff for tech processing, for processing of tech files. I have a techinfo package which contains makeinfo utility and some other stuff necessary to process techinfo files, and actually another sub package for techlife. And every time I enter to the project directory, I got those packages available in my environment, but they are not installed system-wide. Good. Let's go back to the options we have for makeinfo. You can see that output formats that's available for us. In real life, you can produce different formats using pandoc utility, which allows to convert techinfo to much more other plain text and non-plain text formats. So you're not really restricted by only those few options. And moreover, for example, outputting to XML allows to generate later from this XML file another markup, because this XML file will preserve all the necessary information. But we will be using makeinfo directly without pandoc for generating PDFs, HTML, and info files. Actually, there is no separate flag for generating info files, but it will do it by default. And here are some additional files, for example, -o for specifying the output file, which we already saw, and few more options which useful only for some specific formats. For example, for HTML, I can include some CSS to make it looks prettier, and yep, some other options that we can use, and few examples here. And now we will go back to our make file. We'll see how I generate info file. Quite simple, just specify the output file name and the techinfo file. Good. We already saw it works, and I will demonstrate it one more time. I type Ctrl X P C for project compile and specify target make target equal to doc/rde.info. Now it compiled, and if I want to browse this file, I call info command with a prefix argument. So I press Ctrl U, Ctrl H, and I, and after that I use doc/rd.info, and now I have this file opened in my info reader. Actually, we are coming back to the latest part of our stream, so if you have any questions, please ask them right now so I can answer them before the stream ends. Okay, we checked that makeinfo works, and we can open our info file with our emacs info reader. Now let's generate HTML file, and let's try it first without CSS to make you understand what we will get at the end. There is a special option for HTML called no-split. We can either generate a one HTML file which contains all the nodes, and they all presented on the one page. But if we not provide no-split option, it will generate a different file for each node and make links inside those files works the way. So you will be jumping between those files using either navigation menu or using breadcrumbs or using those small things at the top and the bottom of each HTML page. But we will be using the one HTML file which contains all the nodes for the all Texinfo file. And let's do it. Bam, generated. And now we can go here and see that it looks like a basic HTML. And you can see for each node we have a header for with links to the previous, top, and content and index. Very good. Now we will return back our CSS. Actually, I use just CSS which taken from GNU.org site, and add some extra CSS for a little better responsibility on mobile devices. And now I will generate HTML manual and will update the page and nothing happens. Okay. It is because it doesn't rebuild the HTML file because original Texinfo file didn't change, and make decided not to update HTML file. So I will call make with two arguments. First one is a clean target, which will call deleting comments on all the files produced by other targets for generated documentation. And now it regenerated our HTML file, and now you can see that it has table of content, menu, detailed menu, and so on, and it looks a little prettier than the basic HTML version. Very nice. And the last one is PDF version. We do the same, generated, and now we can open PDF. Now you can see, let me make it a little smaller. We have a table of content, we have a first introduction chapter, and all other chapters present here in one PDF file. Nope. I accidentally hit some key. Because of streaming, it works a little slow. But we can see everything that we have in other manuals are present here, except the top node. And this is because the top node will be shown only in info and HTML manuals, but not in the PDF one. Good. We generated all the three formats that we wanted. Let's keep our HTML format. And we explored all the tools necessary for doing it. With such simple setup, we can already not only read info files, but also create info files. And not only info files, but also PDF and HTML. Very good. In hour and a half, we learned how to read the documentation, and we saw that it's actually quite handy. And even knowing that this technology exists for years, like for decades, it's still very useful and maybe not that user-friendly as we expect from modern software, but still very good. And just learning it in a few minutes will make you very power user, and will allow to explore the software in quite easy and convenient way. We also saw that it's relatively easy to write Texinfo files, and learning how to write Texinfo files also won't take too much time. Just reading a few pages of manual and learning some key bindings, which already documented for major mod. And the good thing that all that stuff, Texinfo info, is well integrated with GNU ecosystem and Emacs itself, so you can do it without leaving your IDE. And the very important but not mentioned earlier fact, everything here is offline friendly, so you will have the documentation if you don't even have an internet connection or have very restricted internet connection. You won't be restricted in your work, and you will be able to continue to do all the stuff you want to program, to explore and configure your system, and so on. Paul says, I missed this, but we'll be watching the video when it's ready. Thanks. You're very welcome. And thank you everyone who joined today and who will be watching it later. See you in a bit. Bye bye.